Chapter 1, Ashford Bay. Part 10. Between Shelves and Stone. Midnight likes a place to sit. The town gave it more than one. I left the lamp in 207 burning small and stepped into hall carpet that remembered better shoes. The lobby breathed. Greeley's bell thought about being useful and decided against it. Outside, the rain had learned to mind its manners. It fell straight, quiet, diligent. The lighthouse laid its blade across the harbor and took it back, regular as a heartbeat. No address on the note. Only the hour. The crossed out I had grown its fourth hatch in my pocket. The street gave me the fifth, chalk on a curb stone near the bakery, fresh, the damp still chewing at it. I followed the marks the way a man follows his last good idea and hoped the town had not decided to change its mind. They drew a line up the square, across to the library. The brass clock wore 12 like a sentence served. The crack in the foundation breathed the same cold, bookish air it had in daylight. The door was locked. A key rattled from the inside and made morality relative. Clare opened the door 2 inches and let me in 1. She wore her cardigan like armor and carried the kind of flashlight librarians prefer, narrow beam, tidy switch, sensible weight. "You got my note," she said, as if it would be impolite to pretend otherwise. "I got a note," I said. "It didn't sign itself." "It wouldn't," she said. She turned the bolt and slid the bar, a practical gesture that didn't change what the night had already decided. "You keep odd hours, Mr. Reed." "I learned them from wars," I said. "The library has its own," she said. She moved ahead of me between the stacks. The smell of paste and paper had shifted to something drier, like chalk and old weather. Her light found the base of the wall near the archives door and the hairline crack that ran for the baseboard and thought about stopping and didn't. "I was counting drafts," she said. "The building breathes through the wrong places. I believe in right ones. How many drafts make a door?" "Tonight," she said, "at least 1. She put the light between her teeth, knelt, and pried at a low molding that had made a career of not volunteering. It came loose with a small, disappointed sound. Behind it, a square cut in plaster looked at us with the blank opinion of old things. She set her fingers in, found an iron ring, and pulled. A panel stepped back from its obedience and revealed a short stair that had been waiting 80 years to be rude again. "Trading post," she said. Then a reading room over a storage cellar. Then prohibition. "The town doesn't delete, it footnotes." "Where does it go?" "Toward the church by way of the dirt," she said. "And toward the wharf by way of wishful thinking." She put the light on the first tread. "There's your door. You believe the man who drew the eye will be on the other side." "I believe men who draw eyes want them to be seen," she said. "Go. I will close behind you. If you don't knock twice and once again in a reasonable period I will call the sheriff and endure the consequences. I am less afraid of Harvey than of rot." "Come along," I said. "I keep the books," she said. "And I keep the town's excuses for them. This is how I sleep." She paused, then added, "Take this." She handed me a folded square of cloth. "Bread wrapping from the bakehouse. Not clean. Not dirty enough to be useless. It will hold a thing without arguing." "You expected a thing." "I expect men to be men and the tide to do its chores," she said. "Go on." The stairs smelled of dirt that had wanted to be stone and settled for remembering it. The walls sweated in a way that made you think of churches and cellars. At the bottom, the tunnel ran low and sure, ribbed with old beams, the floor tamped down by feet that had learned to be quiet generations ahead of mine. Chalk marks showed where a man's hand would fall to steady himself. The eye with the struck pupil. Each carried a new hatch, for at the foot, 5 by the first bend, 6 by the place where a trickle had taught itself the map. A wet print had smeared there, finger-thick and the color the town had taught rope to be when it kept company with paint. The beam from the point could not come down here, but it announced itself anyway every 30 seconds by way of a small, obedient quiver in the wood. The lighthouse keeps time for men who pretend they don't look at clocks. Halfway to the church a cross-tunnel cut right, narrower, older, the kind of passage a boy discovers and a man forgets. From its dark a draught carried the thin smell of machine oil and salt. Footsteps ahead. Soft. Practiced. They slowed when mine did, then went on in their own temper. I edged the light away and let my hand find the wall. The tunnel made a sound like a throat waiting to be cleared and went quiet again. At a bend the floor rose to a shallow, boarded throat with a square of lighter dark at the top, a trap that would open into the sacristy if the world believed in predictability. A thin cord hung, someone had tied a knot in it twice, as if hoping the third would come from a better day. I didn't lift it. I looked left. The passage continued under the street toward the wharf, but here the earth had given up a secret willingly, a recess dug into the side no bigger than a cupboard and lined in rough plank. Inside, a coil of cut cord, 3 tin seals in a small canvas bag, and a scrap of paper stiff with damp. The scrap waited to quit, but hadn't yet. I used the cloth Clare had given me and coaxed it out. A corner only. A pencil signature that began the way a man with a big name begins his small lies. H, and a line that felt like anger derailed by luck. Behind me the footsteps returned from the bend and found gravity. I killed the light and put my back to the beam. The dark came on in a way that demanded your attention. "Mr. Reed," said a voice from the stairs above, almost formal, and then lower, "don't give your name to basements." Harvey. The sheriff owned his whisper like he'd bought it at a sale and repaired it personally. "You've been counting," he said. I could hear him set a shoe carefully. "You brought a librarian." "Only her door," I said. "That's worse," he said, but the judgment came tired. The man had spent his day on wet timber and civic duty. "Listen. Keep left. Don't take the sacristy. Whoever walks above us owns that room tonight. You let them." "I count different things than you do," he said. "I like them to think I've lost interest." "Move." We kept left. The tunnel took a long breath and narrowed. Under the street, the world above sent messages, distant roll of a car that hadn't learned to sound like confidence, a drip from a gutter finding the wrong congregation. The hatches on the eye marks reached 7, then 8. The beam's interval changed its mood, a hesitation, a slight drag, as if the lens had forgotten a step. "Grady?" I said. "He'll say weather," Harvey said. "He may be right." He stopped. "He may not." The earth turned cold and salty in a way only the Atlantic can teach dirt. The tunnel elbowed, and a slit ahead showed a low, square room that had more right to call itself a vault. Rope, tarpaulin, crates in twos. Not 17, not anymore, but enough to know the number had once tried to live here. The top crate had been opened and reclosed with a conscience. Under tarp, more books and bone-colored skins lay packed like promise. On one, a damp smear of red had kissed the spine. I pressed the cloth to it and the stain admitted it could be convinced to share. The cloth went heavier in my hand. A breath to my right that wasn't mine. Then the small, disrespectful crack of a knee nudging a crate. I shifted the light the width of a coin. A face in the slice of glow, young, set too still. The lightkeeper's boy. Not frightened. Not bold. Doing math. He lifted a finger to his mouth. Not to hush me. To hush the part of me that names things. Then he put the finger to the eye hammered into the plank above the trap, a real iron eye, for rope. He drew an invisible line across where a pupil would be, as if to acknowledge a code that didn't need chalk. "Go back," he mouthed, not sound, just shape. He stepped aside like a man stepping aside for weather. Past him, another shape, the kind that learned rooms by shoulder. Richard Caldwell, lean with restless. He had his father's jaw and none of his father's patience. His hand held a coil of cord like a man holds a leash he intends to teach a lesson. He didn't see me. He saw the crate. He saw the book. He saw a life that had not asked his permission. Harvey's hand touched my sleeve with the pressure of a file stamp. Wait. The lighthouse beam found itself, then lost itself. Once, twice. A falter. The tunnel would answered with a low complaint that came from bolts and sea and something with a pulse. Hell, Harvey breathed, almost reverent. Don't do that to me. Above, a door moved in the sacristy, slow, careful, the way men move doors when they aren't sure who owns the room. A sliver of church light fell into our dirt in a rebuke. Richard looked up to the way the ground remembers sanctuaries. The boy didn't. He looked at me. He lifted his hand again and made the smallest circle with his thumb and forefinger, the size of a seal. Then he put the circle away. Is he yours? I whispered. He belongs to the lamp, Harvey said. The sentence had edges. Move back. The beam went out. Not a falter. Not a breath. Out. The tunnel took the change like a body takes a punch. Sound arrived late, the harbor suddenly louder because it had no light to keep it modest. Men above cursed in the language of boats. Somewhere in the church a bell decided it had opinions. In the instant after the dark, a hand, no idea whose, hit the light out of my fingers and sent it to its knees. The crate shifted. A book slid. The boy's face vanished into its education. Richard's curse was the kind a man learns in younger wars. Back, Harvey said, and the word earned its period. He took my collar, not impolite, not gentle, and moved us into the seam where the tunnel remembered the library. Behind us, feet made decisions men later blame on fear. Rope burned wood. A box agreed to be a drum. Above, voices began to assemble a plan at the speed of towns. Clare's panel breathed when my knuckles did what we'd agreed. 2 knocks and 1, the oldest politics. We came up into paper and order as if surfacing from a baptism you hadn't signed for. Clare didn't let panic ruin the shape of her mouth. She locked the panel and put the molding back and set the book truck in front the way another woman would set a chair under a window. What did it do? She asked. Not who. Not you. What? The lamp, Harvey said. It's dark. He didn't hide the word. He held it up and let it mean what it liked. Clare closed her eyes once, like a stamp, and opened them the way a room opens a door. Then the town will become its better or its worse self in the next 5 minutes, she said. You two should pick which one you belong to. The bell in the church spoke without music. The harbor answered with motors waking like old men. The rain remembered to be vertical. Harvey looked at me. He didn't need to ask. Men don't in such moments. He put a key in my hand. Old brass. The number on its tag had been rubbed to an argument. Harbor office. If I don't make the tower, he said, you find Eli. He'll either be under the desk or in front of it. Either way, he'll have a page. And if Grady needs hands, he'll have mine, Harvey said. And his boy will have his own. He set his hat down on the librarian's desk for a second and then took it back, as if the act could be the last polite thing he did that night. Keep the light, Miss Whitmore. I keep the books, she said. Tonight they may be the same. He was gone with the quiet of a big man taught by small rooms. I stood with Clare in a building that stayed calm because it had centuries of practice. Through the window the town's shapes learned how to be dark without an example. What did you take? She asked me, practical. A corner and a stain, I said, holding up the cloth. A number that won't stay where it's put. Numbers move, she said. Truth moves slower. That's why it's always late to its own rescue. She touched my sleeve like a verdict softened by sympathy. Go. If the light doesn't come back in 10 minutes, the harbor turns into a story the town will tell badly for 100 years. I went. The rain met me on the steps and explained itself again. Behind me the library's door settled into its latch like a line of poetry finding its period. Ahead, the street ran toward the wharf without promising safe arrival. The lighthouse had stopped judging. The town had started. Chapter 1 ended the way knights do when they decide to keep their secrets, by taking the light and leaving the rest to men.